conceptions of life. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is spiritual understanding. The body is material, but within the body is the soul. This is spiritual understanding. Unfortunately, one who is in ignorance under the spell of material illusion accept the body to be the self. He cannot understand that the body is matter, like small particles of sand. Bodies come together and are separated by the force of time. The people falsely lament for unfixedness, unification and separation. Unifications and separation. Unless one knows this, there is no question of happiness. Therefore, in Bhagavad Gita 2.13, verse number 2, chapter number 2, verse number 13. This is the first instruction given by the Lord. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. We are not the body, we are spiritual beings trapped in the body. Our real interest lie in understanding this simple fact. Then we can make further spiritual progress. Otherwise, if we remain in the bodily conception of life, our miserable material existence will continue forever. Political adjustment, social welfare work, medical assistance, and the other programs we have manufactured for peace and happiness will never endure. We shall have to undergo the sufferings of material life one after another. Therefore, material life is said to be dukkhalama aswasutam. It is a reservoir of miserable conditions. Miserable conditions. Text 4. When seeds are sown in the ground, they sometimes grow into plants and sometimes do not. Sometimes the ground is not fertile and the sowing of seed is unproductive. Similarly, sometimes a prospective father, being impelled by the potency of the Supreme Lord, can beget a child, but sometimes conception does not take place. Therefore, one should not lament. Therefore, one should not lament over the artificial relationship of parenthood, which is unlimitedly controlled by the Supreme Lord. रीडिंग कर रहा था गुरु महाराज के पास आऊँगा रीडिंग कर रहा था गुरु महाराज के पास Maharaj Chitraketu was actually not destined to get a son. Maharaj Chitraketu was actually not destined to get a son. Therefore, although he married hundreds and thousands of wives, all of them proved barren. He could not beget even one child. When Angira Rishi came to see the king requested the great sage to enable him to have at least one son. Because of the blessings of Angira Rishi, a child was sent by the grace of Maya. But the child was not to live for long. Therefore, in the beginning, Angira Rishi told the king that he would beget a child who would cause jubilation and lamentation. King Chitraketu was not destined to get a child by providence or the will of the Supreme. Just as sterile grain cannot produce more grain. A sterile person, by the will of the Supreme Lord, cannot beget a child. Sometimes a child is born even to an important father and sterile mother, and sometimes a potent father and fertile mother are childless. Indeed, sometimes a child is born despite contraceptive methods, and therefore the parents kill the child in the womb. In the present days, killing children in the womb has become a common practice. Why? When contraceptive methods are taken, why don't they act? Why is a child sometimes produced so that the father and mother have to kill in the bomb, king it in the bomb? We must conclude that our arrangement of so-called scientific knowledge cannot determine what will take place. What is enacted actually this depends on the supreme will. It is by the supreme will that we are situated in certain condition in terms of family, community and personality. These are all arrangements of the Supreme Lord according to our desires under the spell of Maya illusion in devotional life. Therefore, one should not desire anything, since everything depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As stated in Bhakti Rasamat Sindhu 1.1.11, one should rather a transcendental loving service. One should render transcendental loving service to the Supreme Lord Krishna favorably and without desire for material profit or gain through fruitive activities or philosophical speculation. That is called pure devotional service. One should act only to develop Krishna consciousness. For everything else, one should fully depend upon the Supreme Person. We should not create plans that will ultimately make us frustrated. Text 5. O King, both you and we, your advisor, wives, and ministers, as well as everything moving and not moving throughout the entire cosmos as at this time, are in a temporary situation. Before our birth, the situation did not exist. After our death, it will exist no longer. Therefore, our situation not is temporary, although it is not false. Therefore, our situation now is temporary, although it is not false. The Mayavadi philosopher says, Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Brahman, the living being, is factual, but his present bodily situation is false. Accordingly to the Vaishnava philosophy, however, the present situation is not false, but temporarily. It is like a dream. A dream does not exist before one falls asleep, nor does it continue after one awakens. The period for dreaming exists only between these two, and therefore it is false in the senses that it is impermanent. Similarly, the entire material creation, including our own creation, the entire material creation, including our own creation and those of others, is impermanent. We do not lament for the situation in a dream before the dream takes place or after it is over. And so during the dream or during a dream like situation, one should not accept it as factual and lament about it. This is real knowledge. Translation 6. Text 6. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master and Proprietor of everything, is certainly not interested in the temporary cosmic manifestation Nonetheless, just as a boy at the beach created something in which he is not interested, the Lord, keeping everything under his control, causes creations, maintenance, and inhalations. He creates by engaging a father to beget a son. He maintains by engaging a government or king to see to the public's welfare, and he inhalates through agents for killing, such as snakes. The agent for creation, maintenance, and inhalation have no independent potency, but because of the spell of the illusion energy, one thinks himself the creator, maintainer, and inhalator. No one can independently create, maintain, or annihilate. Bhagavad Gita 3.27 therefore says, Purport started. The bewildered spirit soul, under the influence of the three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer or activities that are in actually carried out by nature. Prakriti means nature as directed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, includes all living entities to create, maintain, or annihilate according to the modes of nature. But the living entity without knowledge of the Supreme Person and his agent, the material energy, thinks that he is the doer. In fact, he is not at all the doer. All the doer. As an agent of the Supreme Doer, the Supreme Lord, one should abide by the Lord's order. The present thought, the present chaotic conditions of the world are due to the ignorance of leaders who forget that they have been appointed to act by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because they have been appointed by the Lord, their duty is to consult the Lord and act accordingly. The book for consultation is Bhagavad Gita, in which the Supreme Lord gives directions. Therefore, those who are engaged in creation, maintenance, and annihilation should consult the Supreme Person who has appointed them and should act accordingly. Then everyone will be satisfied and there will be no disturbance. Text 7. As from one seed another seed is generated, O king, so from one body, the body of the father, through another body, the body of the mother, a third body is generated, the body of the son, body of a son. As the element of the material body are eternal, as the elements of the material body are eternal. The living entity who appears through these material elements is also eternal. Purport. From Bhagavad Gita, we understand that there are two energies, namely the superior energy and inferior energy. Inferior energy consists of the five gross and three subtle material elements. The living entity, who represent the superior energy, appears in different types of bodies through these elements by the manipulations or supervision of the material energy. Actually, both the material and spiritual energies, matter and spirit, exist eternally as potencies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The potent entity is the Supreme Person. Since the spiritual energy, the living being, was part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, desired to enjoy his material world. The Lord gives him a chance to accept different type of material bodies and enjoy or suffer in different material conditions. Factually, the spiritual energy, the living entity would desire to enjoy material things, is manipulated by the Supreme Lord. The so-called father and mother have nothing to do with the living entity. As a result of his own choice of and karma, the living being take different bodies through the agency of so-called father and mother. Text 8. Divisions of generalization and specification such as nationality and individuality are the imagination of person who are not advanced in knowledge. Purport. Actually, there are two energies, material and spiritual. Both of them are ever existing because they are emanations from the eternal truth. The Supreme Lord, because the individual soul, the individual living entity has desire to act in forgetfulness of his original identity since time immemorial. He is accepting different position in material bodies and being designed according to many division of nationality, community, society, species, and so on. That's 9. So Sukadeva Goswami continue. Thus, enlightened by the instructions of Narada and Angira, King Chitraketu became hopeful with knowledge, wiping his shriveled face with his hand. The king began to speak. Text 10. King Chitraketu said, "Oh, you have both come here dressed like avadutas, liberated persons, just to cover your identities. But I see that of all men, you are the most elevated in awareness. You know everything as it is. Therefore, you are the greatest of all great personalities." Text 11. Brahmans who are exalted to the position of Vaishnavas, the most dear servant of Krishna, sometimes dressed like madmen, just to benefit materialistic like us, who was always attached to sense gratification and just to despite dissipate and ignorance, this Vaishnavas wander on the surface of the globe according to their desire. Text 12 and 15. 12, text 12 to 15. Translation. O great souls, I have heard that amongst the great and perfect person wandering the surface of the earth to instruct knowledge to people covered by ignorance are Sanat, Kumar, Narada, Ribhu, Angira, Devala, Asita, Apanantama, Vyasdeva, Markanandeva, Markandeya, Gautama, Vasishtha, Bhagwan, Parashurama, Kapila, Sukdeva, and Durvasha, Yagvallaka, Jatukarna, and Aruni. Other are Romasha, Shavanna, Dattatreya, Ashuri, Patanjali. The great says, Dhaumya, who is like the head of the Vedas, the sage, Panchasikha, Hiranyanabha, Kausalya, Shrutadeva, and Rista Vaja. You must certainly be among them. The word Jnana, purport. The word Jnana Hetava is very significant because great personalities like those listed in these verses wander on the surface of the globe not to mislead the populace but to distribute real knowledge. Without this knowledge, human life is wasted. The human form of life is meant for relation of one's relationship with Krishna or God. One would lacks is this knowledge is categorized among the animal. The Lord Himself says in Bhagavad Gita 7.15, those miscreants who are grossly foolish, lowest amongst mankind, whose knowledge is stolen by illusion and who partake of the atheistic nature of demons, do not surrender unto me. Ignorance is the bodily conception of life. Practically everyone throughout the universe, especially on this planet, Bhuloka, this that think that there is no separation existence of the body and soul, and therefore no need of self-relation. But that is not a fact. Therefore all the Brahmins listed here, being devotee, travel all over the world to awaken Krishna consciousness in the heart of such foolish materialists. materialists. The acharyas mentioned in these verses are described in the Mahabharata. The word Panchasikha, the word Panchasikha is also important, who is liberated from the conceptions of Annamaya, Pranamaya, Annamaya, Pranamaya, and Manomaya, Vijnanmaya, and Anandamaya, and who is perfectly aware of the subtle covering of the soul is call it Panchasikha. According to the statement of the Mahabharata, Santi Parva, chapter 218 and 219. An Acharya named Panchasikha took birth in the family of Maharaj Janaka, the ruler of Mithila. The Sankhya philosopher accept Panchasikha Acharya as one of them. Real knowledge pertains to the living entity dwelling within the body. Unfortunately, because of ignorance, the living entity identify himself with the body and therefore feels pleasure and pain. Text 16. Because you are great personalities, you can give me real knowledge. I am foolish as a village animal like a pig or dog because I am merged in the darkness of ignorance. Therefore, please ignite the torch of knowledge to save me. Purport. This is the way to receive knowledge. One must submit oneself at the lotus feet of great personalities who can actually deliver transcendental knowledge. It is therefore said, Tasmad Gurum Prapadyate, Jigyasu se Uttamam. One who is inquisitive to understand the highest goal and benefit of the life must approach a bona fide spiritual master and surrender unto him. Only one can is actually eager to receive knowledge to eradicate the darkness of ignorance is eligible to approach a guru or spiritual master. Only one who is actually eager to receive knowledge to eradicate the darkness of ignorance is eligible to approach a guru or spiritual master. The guru should not be approached for material benefits. One should not approach a guru just to cure some disease or receive some miraculous benefit. This is not the way to approach the guru. Tad Vijnanartham. One should approach the guru to understand the transcendental science of spiritual life. Unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are many bogus gurus who display magic to their disciples, and many foolish disciples want to see such magic for material benefits. These disciples are not interested in pursuing spiritual life to save themselves from the darkness of ignorance. It is said, I was born in the darkness, ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eye. with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. This gives the definition of the Guru. Everyone is in the darkness and ignorance. Therefore, everyone needs to be in enlightenment with transcendental knowledge. One who enlightens his disciple and save him from rooting in the darkness of ignorance in this material world is the true Guru. Text 17. Angira said, My dear king, when you desired to have a son, I approached you. Indeed, I am the same Angira Rishi who gave you this son. As for this Rishi, he is the great sage Narada, the great son of the Brahma. Text 18 and 19 translation. My dear king, you are an advanced devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To be absorbed in lamentation for the loss of something material is unsuitable for a person like you. Therefore, we have both come to relieve you from this false lamentation, which is due to your being merged in the darkness of ignorance. For those who are advanced in spiritual knowledge, to be affected by material loss and gain is not at all desirable. Purport. Several words in this verse are very important. The word Mahapurusha refers to advanced devotees and also to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maha means the Supreme and the Purusha means person. Who was always engaged in the service of the Supreme Lord is called Mahapurushika. Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit are sometimes addressed as Mahapurushika. A devotee should always aspire to engage in the service of advanced devotees. As Sri Narottam Das Thakur has sung, our devotees should always aspire to live in the association of advanced devotees and engage in the service of the Lord through the Parampara system. In the service of the Lord through the Parampara system. One should serve the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the instructions of the great Goswamis of Vrindavan. This is called Tadira Charana Sevi. While serving the lotus feet of the Goswamis, one should live in the association of devotees, Bhakta Sanevas. This is the business of a devotee. A devotee should not aspire for material profit or lament for material loss. When Angiras, Rishi and Narada saw that Maharaj Chitraketu, an advanced devotee, had fallen in the darkness of ignorance and was lamenting for the material body for his son, by their causeless mercy, they came to advise him so that he could be saved from this ignorance. Another significance, what is Brahman? The Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes addressed by the prayer Namo Brahmana Devaya, which offer obeisances unto the Lord because he is served by the devotees. Therefore, this verse stated Brahmanya Bhagavat Bhakto Namastitu Shruti. This is the symptoms of an advanced devotee, Brahma Bhuta Prashanatma. For a devotee, an advanced self-realized soul, there is no cause of material jubilance or lamentation. He is always transcendental to conditional life. Text 20. When I first came to your home, I could have given you the supreme transcendental knowledge. But when I saw that your mind was absorbed in material things, I gave you only a son who caused you jubilation and lamentation. Text 21 and 23. My dear king, now you are actually experiencing the misery of a person who has son and daughter. O king, honor of the state of Surasena, one's wife, his house, one's wife, his house, the opulence of his kingdom, and his various other opulence and object of sense perception are all the same in that they are temporary. One's kingdom, military power, treasury, servants, ministers, friends, and relatives are all causes of fear, illusion, lamentation, and distress. They are like a Gandharvas. They are like a Gandharva, Nagara are non-existence places that one imagines to exist in the forest because they are impermanent. They are no better than illusions, dreams, and mental concoctions. Purport. This was described that the entanglement of material existence. The material existence, the living entity process many things, the material body, children, wife, and so on. One may think that this will give him protection, but that is impossible. In spite of all these positions, the spirit soul has to give up this present situation, accept another, and accept another. The next situation may be unfavorable, but even if it is favorable, one must give it up and again accept another body. In this way, one tribulation and material existence condition continues. A sane man should be perfectly aware that these things will never be able to give him happiness. One must be situated in his spiritual identity and eternally serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a devotee. Angira Rishi and Narada Muni gave this instruction to Maharaj Chitraketu. Text 24. Translation. These visible objects like wife, children, and properties are like dreams and mental concoctions. Actually, what we see has no permanent existence. It is sometimes seen and sometimes not. Only because of our past action do we create such mental concoction, and because of these conditions, we perform further activities. Everything material is a mental concoction because it is sometimes visible and sometimes not. At night, when we dream of tigers and snakes, they are not actually present, but we are affected because we are affected by that. Why what we envision in our dreams. Everything material is like a dream because it actually has no permanent existence. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur writes as follows in his commentary: Arthena Vyagrahas. At night, one dreams of tigers and snake. While dreaming, he actually sees them, but as soon as the dream is broken, they no longer exist. Similarly, the material world as creation, material world is a creation of our mental concoction. We have comes to this material world to enjoy material resources, and by material mental concoction we discover many objects of enjoyment because our minds are absorbed in material things. This is why we receive various bodies. According to our mental concoctions, we work in various ways, desiring various achievements, and by nature and the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Karmana Devan, we get the advantage we desire. We get the advantages we desire. Thus, we become more and more involved with material concoctions. It is the reason for our sufferings in the material world. Why one kind of activities we create another, and they are all product of our mental concoctions. Text 25. The living entity in the bodily consumptions of life is absorbed in the body, which is a combination of the physical element, the five senses for gathering knowledge, and the five senses of action, along with the mind. Through the mind as living entities suffer the three kinds of tribulations: Abhibhautika, Adibhavika, and Adhyatmika. Therefore, this body is the source of all miseries. In the fifth canto 5.5.4, while instruction his sons, Rishabdev said, the body, all thought temporary, is the cause of all the miseries of material existence. As already discussed in the previous verse, the entire material creation is based on mental concoction. The entire material creation is based on mental concoction. The mind sometimes includes us to think that if we purchase an automobile, we can enjoy the physical elements such as earth, water, air, and fire, combined in form of iron, plastic, petrol, and so on, working with the five metal elements, Pancha Bhutas, as well as with our five knowledge gathering senses like the eyes, ears, and tongue, and our five active senses like the hand and leg, we become involved in the material conditions. Thus, we are subjected to the tribulations known as Adhyatmika, Adidevika, and Adibhautika. The mind is the creator, mind is the center, because the mind creates all these things. As soon as the material object is struck, however, the mind is affected, and we suffer. For example, with the material elements, the working senses, and the knowledge gathering senses, we create a very nice car. When the car is accidentally slammed in a collision, and the mind suffer, and through the mind, the living entity suffers. The fact is that the living entity, while concocting with the mind, creates the material conditions. Become matter is destructible. Through the material conditions, the living entity suffer. Otherwise, the living entity is detached from all material conditions. When one comes to the Brahman platform, the platform of spiritual life, fully understanding that he is a spiritual soul, Brahmasmi, he is no longer affected by lamentation or hankering. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita, one who is thus transcendently situated at once realize the supreme Brahman and become fully joyful. He never lament or desire to have anything. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, he never lament or desire to have anything. Elsewhere in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, the living entity in these conditions world are my eternal fragmental parts. Fragmental parts. Due to conditions life, they are struggling very hard with the six senses, which includes the mind. The living entity is actually part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is unaffected by material conditions, but because the mind, mana, is in fact affected, the senses are affected, and the living entity struggles for existence within the material world. Therefore, O King Chitraketu, carefully consider the position of the Atma. In other words, try to understand who you are, whether body, minds, or soul. Consider that where you have come from, where you are going after giving up this body, why you are under the control of material lamentation. Try to understand your real position in this way, and then you will be able to give up your unnecessary attachment. You will also be able to give up the belief that this material world or anything or not directly in touch with service to Krishna is eternal. Thus, you will obtain peace. The Krishna consciousness movement is factually endeavoring to bring human society to a sober condition. Because of a misdirected civilization, people are jumping in materialistic like life like cats and dogs, performing all sorts of abominable sinful actions and becoming increasingly entangled. The Krishna consciousness movement includes self-realization because one is first directed by by Lord Krishna to understand that one is not the body but the honor of the body. When one understands this simple fact, he can direct himself towards the goal of life because people are not educated in terms of the goal of life. They are working like madmen and becoming more and more attached to the material atmosphere. The misguided man accepts the material conditions as a everlasting. One must give up his faith in material things and give up attachment for them. Then one will be sober and peaceful. Text 27. The great sage Narada continued, my dear king, attentively receive from me a mantra which is most auspicious. After accepting it from me in 7 nights, you will be able to see the Lord face to face. 7 nights. Text 28. My dear king, in former days, Lord Shiva and other demigods took shelter of the lotus feet of Sankarsana. Thus they immediately got free from the illusion of duality and achieved unquelled and unsurpassed glories in spiritual life. You will very soon attain that very same position. Thus, and the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 6th canto, 15th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled like the Saint Narada and Angira instruct King Chitraketu. Chapter 16. King Chitraketu meets the Supreme Lord. Text 1. So Sukadeva Goswami said, my dear king Parikshit, why his mystic power, the great sage Narada, walked the dead son into the vision of all the lamenting relatives and then spoke as follows. Sri Muni said, O living entity, all good fortune unto you. Just see your father and mother. All your friends and relatives are overwhelmed with grief because of your passing away. Because you died untimely, the balance of your lifetime still remains. Therefore, you may enter your body, enjoy the remainder of your life, surrounded by your friends and relatives, accept the royal throne and all the opulence given by your father. Text 4. By the mystic power of Narad Muni, okay. Gopal.
तो आप आ जाइए, उससे बात कर लेंगे।
दिसंबर को
इसको पकड़ो इधर से,
जमीन कहाँ हो जाएगा?
उसको बिछा दो। हुआ नहीं, कहाँ लेके जा रहे हैं? रुक जाओ अभी, इसको पकड़ो। बिना पूछे कुछ काम नहीं करना चाहिए।